a great Thursday morning, as always. It's a delight to have you join us here on ITV for TMI this great Thursday morning. I'm Uyi Agmofwegbe. Let's get right to it and look at the discussion that's in front of us this morning. They proposed the birth control measure, which has already, as it stands right now, become a subject of controversy. On the one hand, just on Tuesday here, 2 days ago, we're told that government was actually looking at the possibility of formulating a policy that will cap birth for couples across this country. In other words, you'll have a situation where couples are not allowed more than a certain number of children. Some news stories said 2, others said 4. But we now know that even the Minister of Finance had come out just after she had tweeted too to say that the government has no plans to actually cap birth rate in the country. That what the government is looking at actually is how to better the lot of Nigerians, particularly in the area of the economy. And she said a whole lot of things along that line, which of course we'll discuss in detail in the course of the program this morning. I'm joined by 2 gentlemen to help make sense of this conversation on TMI today. First is the ASU Chairman, Uniben Chapter, Professor Julius Iyasale. Thank you for coming on the program. It's been a while. We appreciate your presence today. Great. Then next to him is the medical practitioner, is the HOD Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology, Central Hospital here in Benin, Dr. Victor Oehe. Thank you for coming. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Great. Let's see how we can take advantage of this balance. You are in the academia, and of course, you're not a neophyte when it comes to some level of politicking. And then, of course, there's a doctor over there. But let's begin with you. You have followed, I'm very sure, carefully the issue of population in this country.
Yes.
Let's talk about census, for example. We've not had census here, officially speaking, for over 10 years. Yes. What does that say about our data management in this country?
Obviously, what that portends for us is we are unorganized people. We cannot conduct successful census and all that. Tells you the level of insincerity in this country, the level of cracks and division across different boundaries in this country. As it were a country where the people cannot determine how many they are and all that, means that we are not really together. That is the basic truth. But because if you open to information and all that sources, what we see there are projections. Nobody.
What is really the basis for such projections?
Well, they have looked at the initial indices, of course, maybe the 1960 or the 60 population census and all that. That was when the country, as it were, was at a good energy level. And then from there, they've been taking the projection, looking at the level, maybe growth rate. The doctor may tell us about how it is in the hospitals. Yes, if that is anything to go by, I'm sure that the projection is coming from those sources.
Some persons have argued that it's capital intensive to carry out census. It requires a whole lot of resources to make it happen. Is that some good enough reason for not having census
at all? Then how can you plan? Let's look at a nuclear family. If you cannot determine how many children are under a home, how then do you provide for such a home? No matter how much it's going to cost, census is imperative. But what is there, what we have as a country, what the problem is the insincerity, the high level of deceit in politics. That is why we have not been able to conduct our census.
When I opened the program this morning, yes, I started by saying that we have a Ministry of Budget and National Planning. Yes. Of course, we have the National Bureau of Statistics. Yes. These are key when it comes to a conversation like this. Yes. So if we do not have specific number as far as population is concerned, yes, how have we been planning in the last couple of years, for instance?
Of course, you know we don't work with plans, even if there's any. They've been using projections, but even do they bring that to bear when they are determining anything? That is it. To even simple NEPA, BEDC, for instance, in those states, what they do is it not unnecessary billing they do. Do they read meters? No, now. It's just estimated billing. That is as simple as that is for a country. It's just because, like we have always said on this station, that there are no rules and regulations. We don't have a system. Nothing is, no order. And so we are where we are until we decide one day that we need to begin.
Let me allow you to catch your breath a little and come to Dr. Oye. When you talk about census, talk about population, two major issues, amongst others, will be birth rates, death rates. How do we put all of these figures together? I mean, in a country like this where data gathering isn't much of the culture.
Well, as he has said, it's mostly projections. And how you arrive at the national population growth rate will be a combination of the birth rate, the death rate, then the migration, which is immigration and emigration. So as of 2015, the national annual population growth rate was 2.6. And right now it's estimated that we are 170 to 180 million. There's a projection that by the year 2025, Nigeria will be about 225 million in population. So those are the figures that are used. And right now in the world, we have 7.3 billion. And as he has said, the data gathering is rather very poor. And that affects a lot of things we do. Like the birth rates, which are vital statistics, is gotten from the National Population Commission and hospital-based records. How many of our persons go to hospital to register their birth? How many persons even deliver in hospital facilities or other health facilities? And when it comes to death rate, do we really know what the actual death rate is? And in this era where people do across the border, land migration and all, have we really had tabs on what actually is the rate of migration in this country? So it's question of a faulty data. But be that as it may, with mathematical modeling and projections, you are able to plan. But if there is no effective policy at hand, there will be problem. And those policies, if I may just talk about the National Population Policy.
By all means, do.
Which was first promulgated in 1988 and thereafter revised in the year 2004, there were targets. The targets were that by the year 2015, our national growth rate should be at least 2 or below, 2% or below. But have we meant that? In 2015, it was 2.6. So that clearly states that there is a problem. In terms of reduction in maternal mortality and infant mortality, we are way behind. We've not been able to meet the Millennium Development Goals. So if we don't get the issue of birth control, or fertility control, or family planning right now, we will have problem. We have what they call demographic fatigue.
What does that mean?
Which means the government unable to provide for the number of citizens they have, because the natural resources, some of them are depletable and you can't replace them. Just like the number of footprints in Nigeria, on the sands of Nigeria will increase, but the land mass of Nigeria remains the same.
Sure.
However, it's even depreciating because of deforestation and all the other natural disasters that may occur. So if we don't get it right in terms of bringing about family planning, knowing that this is the number of people we are to cater for, we will get it wrong. We will never be able to provide for the teeming number of graduates who are all around looking for jobs.
Your narrative, incidentally, has even brought to the fore how complicated this whole issue is.
Yes.
Let's talk about data collection, for instance. You just made allusion to the fact that we don't have so many women, pregnant women, who go to healthcare facilities to give birth. So in that case, it is almost impossible to have records, and so on and so forth. But how did we miss it? How did we entrench, as it were, this culture of not having records in this country?
You see, it has political angle too. Remember that the census that have been done in this country have all become a tool in the hands of politicians or in the hands of the political gods in terms of saying this region is more than this region. But, however, in terms of getting it right, is to follow the policy, to say all bets must be registrable, also with all debts, and begin to link it to access to other things. We could say, if you come for antenatal care, there will be, in some states, in terms of free maternal care that we have in Edo State, you can say, oh, come, these are the things that will be. We will reduce your delivery rate, your delivery fee for you. That will encourage the populace. However, other ways we can also do it is to empower the girl child, women and girl child, which is a human right issue and a reproductive right issue. When you educate a girl child and you educate a woman, you have not only educated just the family, but you have educated the nation. So the women now know why and how necessary it is to do this vital registration, which is birth and other things. And then they are economically empowered. They can now take decision on the number of children to have, decision on going to seek help in health facility, decisions on a lot of things. And the government can now plan with that. There should be consistency also on the government side, consistency in terms of sticking to the plan, irrespective of what political party is at the center. Stick to the plan.
The policy has always been an issue in this country, whether it's formulation, whether it's implementation. That's always been an issue. So how do we deal with that going forward?
There must be a turnaround, a decisive turnaround. We cannot continue to go the old way and expect to have changes. Countries make decisions. Sweden, with a growth rate of annual growth rate about 1.1%, they are doing well. Other African countries, even Ghana is becoming serious with population control. It is not reducing the fertility, it is being responsible for the number of children you have and giving back to society in a way. Because if you know you have 100 naira, the way you spend the 100 naira, you'll be very careful, like someone that has 1 million. Am I not correct? You know that the resources are being depleted. Crude oil, whether you like it one day, is exhaustible. And our economy is dependent on crude oil. So we must begin to now say, let's limit the number of children. Let couple have a say in how they want to have children, the spacing, and when they want to have it.
Interestingly, I want to talk to you about spacing, but let me come back quickly to Prof here. Just on Tuesday, the Minister of Finance, Zainab Ahmed, had talked about how that what the federal government is doing right now is to talk to children about child spacing and so on and so forth. But she didn't stop there. She also talked about how that the reason they are looking at spacing and other measures to ensure that the economy improves significantly is because when we slid into recession as a country in 2016, after we recovered from that same recession, federal government had to come up with what we now know as the Economic Recovery Growth Plan, which is the ERGP. It's a short-term measure, which of course will climax, as it were, by 2020. So that's the focus for the federal government as far as revamping the economy is concerned. While I appreciate the fact that you are not an economist yourself, is that all we need to deal with two canker worms in this country, unemployment and poverty?
How can it be? How can it be when there are no infrastructure to meet up with the growing population? We are talking about economic recovery. You don't have electricity. You don't have roads. Basic infrastructure to encourage production and manufacturing and all that you don't have. In fact, they are paying lip service to what the ease of doing business. They are bringing in politics into that. Because if you look across the road and all of that, go and talk to small-scale manufacturers, and you see the problems they are facing.
Their ranking has improved as far as the ease of doing business is concerned.
These are all forced permutations and all that. Let me go and ask now on this Benin road today, if a small-scale manufacturer takes a truck of his goods onto the road, whether it won't be held by policemen or road safety people. How do you now, what do you now?
But if they flout traffic rules, for instance, that the law says
it's not traffic, not flouting traffic rules. These are people who are supposed to be encouraged to move from one place to the other, to deliver products. Even those who are coming from the farm with farm produce are ahead from transporting to the market. All of this is just to generate immediate cash for these organs of government. That is what we also. What are we talking about? What I'm saying, I have talked about the high level of insincerity in this country before. We are very good policy formulators or whatever, but in the course of implementation, it is a different ball game. Or maybe some persons who are sitting in Aso Rock or at various presidential offices have good intention, but those, when it trickles down, those people are interested in how to feather their nest, how to fill their pockets. That is what the basic truth. So if they really want to grow this country, I think economically they must look at different realistic facilities. Number one we have talked about is electricity. You and now, we have been singing about this. We heard that we now have about 7,000 megawatts being generated and yet there's no power. You know, where is it then being where is it transmitted to? People don't have electricity. For about 1 month or thereabout now in Benin City, many areas don't have light. So if you're a small scale manufacturers and you need to pay workers, you need to continue in your manufacturing, how will you thrive?
Professor Yasele, let me ask you this quickly.
Yes.
Is it possible, quite frankly,
to
take away politics or politicking from the process of formulating, articulating, and implementing policies? Is it possible?
But you see, politics should be positive. It should,
so
yes.
It's as negative.
What we are doing here is yes, negative. All the intentions are for personal gains, personal interest, self-centeredness, selfishness. That is what you have in this country. Is it for the general? Look, if you look at politicians, are they thinking of the general good of the people? No, it's individual. That is the negative thing I'm talking about. If politics is, it is politics that will determine that, okay, from this local government we have such and such produce, and then these people will require more electricity, for instance, and all that. It's politics that is supposed to determine all of that. That is what we mean by being positive in politics, and not that because my opponent is from this zone, and so there's no way to punish him. We must not give him road or give him electricity. We have seen where even road construction has been done by just for political patronage. Is that the right thing to do? In a community, for instance, where you find that goods are not coming from, or in an area where nothing is coming from there, going to lead to economic growth of a state, and then you are pumping facilities to that place, maybe because your girlfriend or your friend is in that place. That's why I say currently is negative politics that our people are playing. I'm not seeing any positivism in what we are doing. That is just the basic. But in talking about population, let me highlight one basic necessity. If we are to start, if we have decided to now begin to think correctly, let our people look at the local government. Currently, we know in the city, you might hardly find a woman now giving birth without going to one head station or otherwise.
Traditional birth attendant.
Yes, if you look, the local government is an area, is an arm of government without job description. People just go there and then they wait for allocation and then share money. In those days, you have local government workers who visit home to look at even how clean your environment is. They control the level, the work rate of even villagers in those days. There's a particular day that expect everybody must be at home. With days you must clean your environment and they will come to inspect, even there as it were, even pit toilets. Whether they were clean, how distant they were from living environments and all that. These are the same persons that would have been given this, directive to now, okay, you register local, local maternity, there's something they call them. You understand? They are supposed to register all and then make sure they give government approval to do all this. And they, from time to time, they go back there to collect data of birth rate and, if possible, maybe even death rate. So you encourage now, for instance, old people's home, for instance. From there you can get data on death rate. And so it's just that we have not been able to come together, sit down as a country, and then design what will work for this nation, just because of interest.
But again, at what point did we transition from this scenario you just painted a while back to where we have found ourselves
I
now?
think the incursion of the military into politics, that was what killed this country. People who just latched onto power without an agenda. There was no vision, nothing. Just they came to power and started using force in everything. And of course, today we are still suffering it. And the same persons have not changed their uniform, and then they are in Babariga or the secular or what kind of wares, and they are still the ones deciding for this country. That is what is happening. You understand? And then worse for us is that in 1999, when we were coming back to this republic or whatever, this political era, the people never believed that, yes, we were going to succeed. And so many of our neighbors who also went in and then are now holding sway were people whom we looked at as if they were never do-wells and all that. And so now, these are the people who are now in charge of the political space. They have conscripted all the funds in this country. They have acquired them and are taking over them, and then they are using it to force anything down your throat. You must accept. And so that is where we are. Of course, you know what happened recently in the Day House of Assembly. If you look at all of that, look at how many times now. How can you now say that those people are interested in the people? It is because of the people they are shooting and fighting. It's definitely not.
Let me talk to you again now, Dr. Oe. The Minister of Finance has categorically said that the federal government will make a move to talk with religious and traditional rulers with the aim of ensuring that they also reach out to their people to advise them strongly on the needs to space out as far as childbearing is concerned. Is that the way to go?
Yes. It's, you know, our people are very cultural and very religious.
Right.
And also very sentimental. So because of that, these are the people that would appeal to their conscience. And it also varies regionally. It will interest you to know that the total fertility rate in the Northwest is 7.4, as compared to the total fertility rate in the Southwest that is 4.5. The South is just 4.7, while the South is about 4.8. Meanwhile, the total fertility rate, the average for Nigeria is about 5.5, some people say 5.7. So that tells you that if you are able to get in touch with the traditional rulers and the religious leaders and key opinion leaders who they listen to, that will be a key. So it's like a strategic approach. It's not just one approach. And also, the girl child education and women empowerment is key to a successful family planning. And accessibility of the commodity, that the family planning commodity, to the people. If, assuming the Sultan of Sokoto becomes an ambassador of family planning, do you know how far it will go in the north? And they all begin to lead by example, encouraging the girl child and telling their adherents in both faiths that girl child marriage or child marriage is wrong. Allow the child to grow, not the child having another baby. So it is the right step in the right direction. Implementing it may be another thing, but we have to take a decision. irrespective of religious belief, the problem of an alarming growth rate, alarming population is staring at us in the face. What gave rise to these vices in the society is because we have a lot of people out of school. The out of school children is increasing. So we need to nip that in the bud. They must go back to school. The universal basic education must work. And these women must have access to modern contraception. And their key opinion leaders, like the religious leaders and the traditional rulers, are very important in this regard. Just have a look at in Edo State now, where the Oba of Benin came out clearly against women trafficking. You and I know that he sent a very strong message to the traffickers, and we are beginning to see a decline. And not just only that, he ensured that he set up programs to help the returnees. And I know that that program is still on. Likewise, the Edo State government doing a lot. Education, campaigns. When we do that, not waiting for donor agencies to do it all. So from the pulpit, from the palaces, we begin to preach the message. Family planning. Family planning. It will sink down. It will interest you to know that it's only 15% of our women that are using modern contraception or contraceptives.
But how much of awareness are we even creating in the first instance along that line?
The awareness is increasing, but it's still poor. It has been watered down or dampened by religious coloration, by sentiments. But we all should know that the problem is staring us at the face. And if we don't do something now, we have to, even the religion has never said be reckless or be irresponsible. The scripture says that, he said, manage the earth, manage it. A good manager is able to use resources, available resources, to the best efficient use. That's the way I want people to see family planning. We are not telling you you must have 20 children or you must just have one. We are telling you, in the light of economic realities, in the light of maternal mortality, in the light of infant mortality, what is the responsible thing we should do? You should sow your coat according to your size.
We live in a country where the health sector, in some people's opinions, has suffered so much of decay in the last several years. And then again, you can't talk about a healthy population where you don't have access to functional healthcare service. How do we make sense of this whole narrative in light of the reality we're dealing with regarding our healthcare sector in this country?
Now, just now, the Nigerian Medical Association just this our week, and we are talking of universal health coverage to all. And that is key. Community health insurance, state health insurance, the NHIS. We must get it right. We must not allow politicians take over. Because just now you know the issues about the NHIS and all. So we must get it right there. And then primary health care. I'm so happy that now we are focusing on primary health care.
Are we recording any success?
The footing, we are putting it on a sound footing in terms of legislative issues and other things. The Edo State government is getting it right in terms of putting things in place. But however, we must move faster than we are doing now. We must move in terms of let people want to see things on ground. Things are being done, mind you, but we want to see it. We want to be able to access healthcare. And because of the poverty level, paying out of pocket will be very expensive. So the insurance, health insurance, is very key. We can start from the community. There are people, there are organizations, NGOs that have started this in various small communities, a pilot project. We can scale it up. ITV could have a health insurance scheme for all its staff. It starts there. A has it, B has it, university I know have it. Then it is now standardized. When it is standardized, there will be control, not under the influence of politicians. And then the primary healthcare will be strengthened as it's being done in Edo State now. And these policies are being formulated and all that. And then education is still key. Campaign. We must also bring people to book. People that's responsibilities of the various organs of government, responsibilities of the various leaders or heads of health institutions should also be told that this is what we expect, set target. But you don't just set target when you have not made provisions.
Right.
So government also have to make provision. The out of stock syndrome must also be looked into. So when it's looked into, the people can go there and assess it. You must also employ. One person cannot do the work of 20 persons. It's only human.
So manpower is factor.
Manpower is factor. We always talk about the 3 delays when it comes to health. Primary delay, secondary delay, and then the tertiary delay, which has to do at times the decision to seek health care. You can't make that, you can't get that decision because you are not economically empowered or you are not educationally advantaged to know. Then how will they get to the health center? The roads have to be good. Transportation has to be efficient. Public transportation has to be efficient. Communication has to be efficient. And then they come to the hospital. Are there bottlenecks? So the bottlenecks must be removed. Right now, some of the things needed for proper health care, like there's no functional radiotherapy for someone that has a cancer, that needs radiotherapy. We don't have in Edo State.
In the whole of the state?
Functional.
Functional.
Functional. Functional.
So we don't have one functional one in the entire state?
Yes. So patients that need radiotherapy, where would they go? They run to the few available ones that is long queue. So in getting the health indices right, we must start from the basics. If I may recap, the government has a function, key opinion leaders have function, we individuals have function, and our religious leaders and our traditional rulers also have a function.
I think yes, Professor Yasele wants to add to that.
Yes, I'm looking at religious leaders and
traditional
rulers, respect to population control and all that.
Right.
Let me take a swipe and take a dangerous drive.
Without casting aspersion.
Yes, Nigeria. Let's look at it very clearly that an average Edo lady or family going to marriage now knows that they have to control childbearing to a great extent. You can have up to 90-something% of couples going to marry knowing that there is need to control birth.
So they understand the realities we are dealing with.
Yes, because of our environment and all that. But if you look at some other environment in this country, number one point I want to look at is, you know, the SY administration in this country came up with, you know, provision of the Amajiri schools.
Right. And that was laudable.
Yes, you know the problem. It's a religious problem that a man gives birth to a child or a son, and the son is sent somewhere under somebody to go and study without requisite funding or otherwise. And that is why you find that these people come back to the road to go to beg money and all that. And so such man knows, or such a father knows, do I need to control my birth and all that, the number of children I will bring into this world, when obviously there's a waiting hand to receive such a child, and there's a way it will go. If you go to some areas in the north, has it reduced? Have you seen that the number of Amajiris, with even the education and everything coming into play, are now being taken out of the road.
So you're saying the government has more work to do up north?
I'm coming. I'm talking about religion.
Yes.
Do you understand? It's a vital aspect of the Muslim religion. That is their Majiri system. Because they have to go and learn, some details of the Quran and all that. A professor, my colleague in Muatek, told me this. There's a name they call it. He said, in fact, that was the design. But it's unfortunate that the imam that they are under cannot fend for them. And so the man gives them plates to return back to the road to go and beg. So what I'm saying here is that the father now knows that he has somewhere no matter the number of children
there's a system that takes the pressure off of him.
So he goes ahead. That is number one. Number two is that it's unlikely that you and I don't know to a great extent that we don't just need to go marrying women up and down. It's unlikely that you will marry a wife and you tell the wife you will not have a child. And so if you get an approval already from a religious basis that you can marry as many as 4 wives, let's look at it. And the 4 wives, obviously, each of them will give birth to a minimum of 2. How many to that father? You already have 8 children. You see where the problem is coming to. But for me, I know that once it's 2, 3, a maximum of 4 now, to an average Edo man knows that he's already taking a risk. But it is not like that. So the pressure you are seeing, migratory pressure you are seeing, even from the north, is not too far from all these reasons. I was sitting very close to a colleague. We are in ASU together. He's a young man, younger, by far younger than me. He has 4 wives. And because he's allowed to, and all that. So what do you tell such a very young woman?
Professor Yaselem, we're going to take a quick break now. I'm going to allow you push this line of thoughts further. Just after we take this quick break, and we'll be back shortly.
TMI, every opinion counts.
Interestingly, another guest just got on the program with us this morning, Dr. Is Bodino, consultant public health physician based in Benin City at the Central Hospital. UBTH, yeah, okay, UBTH. Dr. Is from the Central Hospital. Good to have you on the program. I'm going to come to you quickly so you can talk to us basically about key factors that enhance population control. But Professor Iyasele here a while ago was talking about the fact that religion plays a key role in all of these explosions, as it were, that we are seeing. You want to continue along that trajectory?
Yeah, we are just saying behind, the scene now that if you look at the fertility rates in this country, you have the highest northwest, followed by the northeast. Then as you go down, it reduces to the least in the south, which is about 4.7.
Right.
What this clearly shows, supports my argument about the influence of religion to population problems or growth in this country. Of course, what I'm saying here is that the average parent in the north knows that you give birth to a child, there's a waiting hand to receive such a child. But in the south here, if you bring so many children to life, of course you will sit in there to train them. You become a laughing stock as a parent if you cannot train your child.
How can the government address this reality?
I'm just here to add one other point before we talk about addressing the reality. Then our borders, because it's desert area in the north, very porous. In stock away areas in Benin City here, the boys who now do what we call a bouquet now are from Ivory Coast, Mali, Senegal, and all that around here. Whereas our boys are dying in Libya River, Mediterranean Sea, they have taken over all the job. If you take a walk, find out those boys who push wheelbarrow, peeling oranges, by the sides of the road and all that, ask them if they are honest where they come from. Ask from all the security guards in our neighborhood here. Ask them where they are from. Most of them are not even Nigerians. That is because you can walk across the northern border in this country. And so the pressure is from that area. If our country, if our people are sincere, we know somebody in some other climes took a wall of how many distance across our borders. What does it take if Nigerian government was going to say, okay, invest money into building, as it were, another Berlin Wall across the desert, at least to control the influx aliens into this country? Who would have applauded such policies? But they will not do it because of politics and all that. Then we have also talked about religion. If the imams and the pastors, like I have said before, that the greatest audience you can have are either in the church or in the mosque. A country cannot just leave her citizens to information from any kind of person. The government is supposed to work with religious leaders on what they feed to her people. Otherwise, one day somebody can come up on the pulpit and tell the people. That is why you have seen that somebody came up somewhere and say, go out and be eating grass. It's a miracle. That is, you can't leave your people like that. And so I have always said, the government, and that is where we are talking about the failure of some arms of government in this country. The local government, they're not doing anything, just sit there, no job description, no dispensation, nothing. You just receive money and all that. You used to have road menders, or we call them in those days as children, road workers and all that. You take care of the village environment and all this. So, religion, very vital, like we are saying. Traditional rulers, like my co-discussant has said, if the Sultan, so the number one leader, religious leader, as it were, concerning the Muslim faith, anything he says, the people will follow. If he's sufficiently convinced that this thing is what is leading to the Amajiri system, it has to be amended or handled holistically or well, then you will find that Amajiri is...
That's okay. Dr. Bodeno, please talk to me about issues that must be addressed if we need to start seeing results as far as population control is concerned. Some persons have even argued that you can't control a population. I mean, which of the sides can we see as true?
Yeah, I quite agree that it's difficult to control population. But however, a government that is serious, that has a policy, and a policy must be implemented. There must be enforcement of a policy. Before I go into that, recently I heard one of the ministers, so I think it's the Minister of Finance, was saying that they proposing a birth control policy. And birth control policy, at this time, I think is the right thing to do.
But sorry, Doctor, yes. She just said that she didn't say at that forum on Tuesday,
yes,
which of course was economy focused,
yes,
that government was considering putting a cap,
yes,
on birth rates. That what they were looking at was how that the government can reach out to traditional rulers and religious leaders, yes, to talk to couples to space out childbearing.
Yes, I'm getting to that point.
Okay.
You know, that was not the first time. In 2012, during the former president, Goodluck Jonathan,
right,
he brought such issue. He had criticism all over the country. It was divided along the religious group. The Christians, especially in the southern part of the country, were saying that they want to Islamize the country by making, they are marrying one wife, they have only 2 or 4 children, while the other persons have right to marry up to 4 wives. If one of them is having 2, meaning you are going to have 8. As time goes on, meaning the population in the north will be far more than the one in the south. But however, that is not the issue now. The issue is that the population, how can we control this population? Because when we got our independence in 1960, the population of this country was just barely 45 million. Today, the population we are having is about 197.3 million.
And that's based on projection again?
Yes, based on projection. And people are even kicking against it that we are far more than that. And what is the structure on ground? It's not just that you want to go and talk to the traditional leaders, you want to talk to the religious leaders and so on and so forth. Good and fine. That is just the beginning. What have you done with the girl child education? Recently, it was revealed that over 40% of children drop out of school. They are from the north. And you also know that the component of the policy, that's the population policy we had in 1988, that was later reviewed in 2004, stated clearly the age a girl, or that's the optimal age, a girl or a boy can marry. For women, is 18 years. For men, is 24 years. And we know very well, people who we're supposed to be following to, we call the leaders, are marrying young girls.
Younger than 18?
Younger than 18.
Senator. The former
Yes, sir.
governor senator.
That is the one we heard, a senator, the former governor, who actually, a banker, who went to the four wall of university, had masters and PhD. He can do that. And when you ask such a person, he will open part of the Bible or the Quran and support himself. And when you ask a Christian, we tell you, the Bible says, go to the world and multiply. Obviously, what the government just said, they want to follow the traditional leaders, the religious leader. I think is the right direction. But that is not all.
So what more do we need?
The more we need to is the girl child education. And also, apart from the girl child education, you should be able to empower them. Not only empowering them, you notice that actually what makes the economy of a country to move is the small scale industry. Where are they today? When there is no light. And we cry because what she said, he said the reason for doing that is because of the poverty. I want to tell you today that there are some journals that have published that Nigeria is now the headquarters of poverty in the world. Unemployment. I want to tell you the issue we are having, apart from empowering educating the girl child, because when you educate the girl child, you have to educate the nation, because she is going to be a future mother. And when you talk of the only way you can curtail the population is by applying the rule, family planning, prevention of pregnancy, control of fertility, and contraception.
How possible is it to realize all of this you just mentioned?
Yes, it's possible. If a girl child is educated, she will be an ambassador for that. I am not saying it's total, because in the 2004 review of the population policy, it stated clearly. It said that that's the fertility rate. The fertility rate should be 4 per a woman in her lifetime. Till date, it has not been achieved.
That's a maximum of 4 children?
Yeah, maximum of 4 children. Until recently, we are coming to 2. Because that one has failed, we are coming to 2. What we have not been able to achieve for 28 years. Because we were trying to catch up with the Head for All by 2000 and the MDG 2015.
And events have overtaken that.
Events have overtaken. What we are talking about today is sustainable development goal. We have not been able to achieve what we want to achieve. Because it's not only, it doesn't only stop there, it talks also about the national population growth rate. That should be less than 2. Today we're having 2.7. Over 30 years, we are not able to achieve that. We talk of the maternal mortality, that we say should be less than 78, it should be less than 75. Till today, we are not able to achieve that. The infant mortality rate, we say it should be less than 35. We are not able to achieve that. The child mortality, we say it should be 45. We are not able to achieve that. If you bring all these things together, it's not making policies. If you ask Nigeria, we have the best policies in the world. The implementation, the enforcement. We may have a good, who is going to implement it? As far as my other colleagues just said, where do you find the congregation? On Sunday, go to town. Everybody goes to the church. First and foremost, let's mobilize our pastors our reverend fathers. But don't also forget, even within the Christians, there are different beliefs. Some believe that you must not use family planning. It's natural. Some also believe. But those that believe that you must not use natural family planning, we can talk to them. There are also family planning that are natural. One of the components of natural planning, of family planning, is natural method.
Do you think awareness or lack of it is a problem here?
Yes, it's part of it. Because recently, I'm sorry to say I will a little diverse from this. I personally work with WHO on immunization and one of their consultants. Recently, I went to the far part of this country, the northern part of this country. There are still some people that are kicking against immunization, believing that you are coming to this thing to actually sterilize their children. So, meaning information is still our problem. Communication gap is still there. There are barriers to our communications. The way forward, apart from meeting all those people, you make sure education is free, at least primary, secondary, where this thing can also be part of the curriculum that have been studied in the school. We also involve in such programs we are seeing today on television and radios. Continue airing, and people will hear gradually. Habits, behavior is not changed overnight. It will take time. It's a long-term process. If we are thinking because the government wants us to have 4 children or the government wants us to have 2 children, we are thinking by tomorrow we are going to start obeying that. It's not possible. It's going to take.
But from what you have observed, I mean, you are a medical doctor.
Yeah.
You walked across this country. You have observed so many things. I mean, developments over time. Do you think, for whatever reason, government is overwhelmed as far as population is concerned?
You manage the resources you have. You see, the minimum wage in this country is 18,000 naira. Some people earn less than 20,000, they manage their family. Some earns more than 500,000, they don't manage their family. You cut your coat according to your size. This is where we are today. We have population. What are we going to do? The government should use the little resources they have. If you say they are overwhelmed, I can't believe that. I can't believe that. But if you go back to history, in 60s, 70s, early 80s, government never thought of problems associated with rapid population growth because they were walloping in Udoji. You understand? There was oil everywhere, money was coming everywhere until late 80s when the price of oil dropped less than 11 American dollar. That way Nigeria realized that we can no longer cater for the rapid growing teeming population of Nigeria.
So were we caught napping?
Yes, that's where we made the mistake. Where the mistake come from? Where Nigerians, a president or a head of state in this country, we leave and go to another country and start paying salary. We are not only talking about some of us. When you are talking about this, is a general, it's a totality. Light is important. Roads are important. Infrastructure are important. Some people are farmers. After producing, they can't bring their produce to the city to sell because bad roads. You understand? You are a small scale, you involve in a small scale business, there is no light. You will agree with me for over 2 weeks, we're not having light. All over the state. If I don't know where, in Benin City, part of Benin City where I stay, we're not having light, we're burning for it. Let's as you involve in production. What will happen? So these are the totality. If you point into, said you want to involve the leaders in the church, you want to involve the leaders in the mosque, you want to be the stakeholders and so on and so on. You should also put other considerations. There should be stable light.
One of those considerations we need to talk about is education, which of course everybody here has made allusion to since we started this conversation. Let me come quickly before I get to you, Professor, because of course you are in the academia. Let me talk to Dr. Oye. Education is critical. We can't take away from that fact. Because we've talked about awareness, we've talked about the need for people to have the right orientation, to understand what the dynamics are now, because times have changed, obviously. We've talked about how things were just after independence, before independence, but this is the turn of the century. The rules aren't the same anymore now, it's obvious, whether it's health, whether it's education, whatever it may be. But it's also glaring enough to know that Nigeria as a country is challenged on many fronts. So we want to talk about education and see what implication that also has on this conversation about population explosion and how perhaps we can manage it all together. Gentlemen, by way of wrapping up this discussion, let's just take 1 minute each to emphasize the place of education in population control. Let's begin with you, Professor Yasale.
Of course, it is a social responsibility that you have to educate your citizens. Somebody thought recently or before that it was not possible for government to give free education. Just recently, Liberia, George Weah has approved free education for tertiary institutions. And then here, let me also posit that if you are a man married to 4 wives, your wives can only give birth to one child. Then if it is 2 wives under a man, then it will be 2-2. So what I mean is that if you say maximum of 4, then if you marry 4 wives, 1-1. Then if you're a single mother, you can give birth to 4 children. We should control population like that.
That's a position.
Yes, that's my position.
Thank you so much. Let's move on to Dr. Oye.
Education is a human right. And because we are signatory to the UN resolutions and others, we should also enforce it. We should not think education is like a privilege for the few. Because we are now seeing that lack of education is the problem we are having in this country. An educated man or woman will not do the vices we are seeing, most of the vices, though that is not an absolute truth in itself. If you educate the girl child and empower the women, our nation will be better for it. In terms of family planning, and a well-educated woman is likely to access health facility. A well-educated woman is likely going to limit the number of children she's going to give birth to, and space them appropriately. A well-educated nation is a healthy nation, and a healthy nation that is well educated will lead to greater productivity. And the more productive we are as a nation, our GDP increases, and then prosperity comes.
Thank you so much. Doctor, you want to add your voice to that?
Yeah, thank you very much. Education is a right to every citizen in this country. It has actually buttressed in MDG, presently the Sustainable Development Goals.
Right.
At least you should be able to educate your people, primary and secondary, if possible, the tertiary. And we are aware, I said it earlier, when you educate a girl child, you have educated the nation.
Right.
Because she is the future mother. And a future mother who is educated knows how to control the communicable diseases that actually ravage the population. We're able to manage the money, because somebody that is educated and somebody that is not educated, when they are doing business, you find out the one that is educated, even if he has not gotten a white-collar job, the way she organize his or herself will be better. We also know that when you are educated, the little money you have, you're able to invest it, the GDP of the country will improve. He or she can involve in a small-scale industry and be productive and able to take care of the children she will be able to have. She will be able to practice and prevent unwanted pregnancies. We are able to secure a desired pregnancy. She will be able to space her children, and she will be able to limit the family size.
In a nutshell, the importance of education is non-negotiable. That's the point.
Thank you.
Dr. Hisbodeno, thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you,
we appreciate that. And of course, Dr. Victor, thank you so much for coming on the program. Professor Julius Iyasele, we appreciate your time with us on TMI. So gentlemen, we hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much for coming. That'll be our program this morning on ITV for Thursday. I'm Uyad Mofwegbe. Thank you for spending part of your morning with us. Have a great day ahead of you.